I'll be on top again. I'm not gonna let you take me down. It's gonna be the whole 9 yards or nothing.
Today we have a very special guest. It's an area that's kind of special to me as family members get older and different needs and so forth. Today's about elder law, and we're fortunate to have Ron Fatoullah, who's been practicing in this area for a very long time, and he's experienced a lot of the changes that have occurred in this area of law, which, Ron, it's relatively a very new area of law.
It is. In fact, the term elder law was only coined, I think, in the late 80s. And I was already practicing in the area then. In fact, they used to call me the poverty lawyer because I told people, many of my clients, to transfer gift assets out and made them poor so they could get benefits.
Well, let me take a step back.
Absolutely.
Okay. Because honestly, this is, when I hear the term elder law, it's a kind of a confusing area. And people say, I know it deals with older people.
Right.
But for our audience, and let's keep it plain, let's take the legalese out. That's what we do in this part. And let's make it plain and simple for people. When you say elder law, what the heck does that mean?
Very good question. Because elder law comprises estate planning, Medicaid planning. We have to know about long-term care insurance issues. We have to know about taxes because as you get older, we have the estate tax issues. We get involved with probating estates or administering estates. We get involved in so many different areas, even real estate, because as an individual gets older, they have a home, they have a co-op, they have a condo. Something typically has to be done with that. So there's always something that's going on. And so it's not just one thing. It comprises
So it's not just a will, trust, and an estate. It's not just a will.
It involves all of that, but it's just part of it. Scratching the surface.
You know what? At this point, I just want to put my head in the pillow and say, I don't understand. But you know what? Let's take people step by step.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Sure.
I think there's a big misconception, and you and I talked about this off camera. A lot of people say to me, why am I going to go to an experienced guy like Ron or any type of elder law planner, which then might incorporate financial planning, and may incorporate doing all those other steps, when I'm barely making it month to month? So they say, what am I protecting? All I'm doing is paying more money out. For what? And I think that's a bad misconception.
It's a terrible misconception. Look, the fact is, if someone has no liquid assets, they're living month to month, but they have a home, well, that home is their castle. That home is everything, and it really deserves to be protected. More so than if someone had $10 million, and if the cost of, let's say, long-term care could cost $1 million, well, they'll still have $9 million left. But this individual that may just have a home needs to protect that home.
And it's not, and this is also interesting, it's not just about them, it's about their spouse, their children. Maybe they have a child that's, can't quite make it on their own and they're going to be dependent on it, or a spouse.
Well, or a child with special needs, or sure.
And then that gets into a whole other area of elder law planning as well as family planning.
Absolutely. It all is rolled into one.
So it is a big misconception then that just because you don't feel that, for lack of a better word, he's popular in the media, that you're not a Donald Trump.
Right. Oh, gosh, no.
Right, but you still, just because you're not Donald Trump money and assets doesn't mean you don't need help. And elder law, today I'd like to focus a little bit on your parents. A lot of times as they get older, they say, they come to their children, they're trusted people in the family, and they say, you know what, we need to start planning for dad or mom. It seems as if they're, they just can't handle things as much anymore. Some may say they've checked out, or they're just slowing down. What do we do? And a lot of people say, you know what, I don't know. And that's probably the worst thing they can say.
Yeah, I don't know is not a good answer. They should see a dedicated elder law attorney, somebody that concentrates their practice on elder law.
Now, I want to stop you on something on
Sure.
that because it just hit me. I like sometimes when I'm at home, and you know how on Thursdays or Fridays it says you get the paper, but you also get like the town crier
Right.
or the penny saver.
Right.
You see in those ads, let us help you plan for Medicaid planning.
Right.
Let us help you plan for the elder, but they're not attorneys.
Right.
And that is a scary thing to me.
Very scary.
And I want you to explain to the people, I'm not here just to promote attorneys. We're here to help you understand very much the importance and the effects this can have on you. I want you to explain to people why that's dangerous when you go to a non-specialist, like a special elder law attorney, as opposed to, shall I be gentle in saying elder law planners that aren't attorneys,
Right.
that
Right.
aren't licensed?
Right. There is so much that goes into a plan. It's not black and white. It involves Medicaid. Typically, these planners talk about gifting assets. Well, how do they gift those assets? There are tax consequences. Trusts have to be drafted. I mean, in essence, that's practicing law without a license in many, many cases.
And they're using a lot of times, and correct me if I'm wrong, they're using basic forms that either they got on internet or they bought at Staples,
Right.
right? Because now you see all these forms on Staples, right? You
Right.
see it.
We have cleaned up so many issues like that in the past. I mean, it's been crazy. Even with a will, a simple will
It's not that simple.
is not that simple. We're actually in the midst of litigation because an individual, actually it was a friend of mine who passed away, did the will himself. You know, he said,
Never asked you. Here's an asset he could have
He could have
asked.
come to me and said, I don't want to bother him. I don't have all that much. Little simple thing. But when the will was signed, he didn't ask the witnesses. There wasn't the question, do you understand this to be your last will and testament? A little tiny thing. Now we're in litigation on the will. And, you know, it just goes to show that you really do need to have a lawyer involved in all of this. And the Medicaid planning, you know, I would say those planners who are not attorneys, if they're adept at Medicaid planning and the individual has no assets, then I think it's fine. But if there are any assets that have to be moved, you need a lawyer. How could you not have a lawyer?
I think what people don't understand about lawyering, and especially in this area or in any area, is being a good lawyer and planning properly is about listening and knowing as an attorney what questions to ask.
Right.
Because you know what? A lot of times if somebody
Right.
says, I just need this, you know, people always say, why do lawyers ask a million questions,
Right.
right? You get that.
We do.
Because,
we ask
you
a
know
million
what?
questions.
You have to, because
do.
everybody's family circumstances are different. And you're looking at it as an attorney, not only is what I need to do in the short run,
Right.
but what may happen? What are the family circumstances? Do the children get along? And you called, as recognized before, are there special needs?
Right.
Are there other issues? Are there legacies? Are there businesses that have to be transferred? Should we have long-term care? What does the people want? What is their desires?
Right. So
And can you, as an attorney, you look at people's wants and you look at their families and you say, well, I don't think this is possible, or this is the circumstance. We could do it this way,
Right.
but the effect is this. Now, what also people should understand is why it takes more than, you're not just going in there for 10 minutes and saying, okay, Ron, you got it. No, don't do that. There's a reason that when you go to Ron's office or any other elder lawyer, before you go, you have a long packet that they should fill out and carefully as to assets, wants, all these other things,
Exactly.
capacities, people to call.
Right. In our office, our average initial consultation takes anywhere between an hour and a half and 2 hours.
And how long does it take this person to be, they have to come in prepared with documents?
We want to see everything.
So it's not just the
Everything
2
that they-
hours. It's probably a couple of hours on their part, and what you're forcing them to do is really think about what's important to them.
Right, exactly. But you hit the nail on the head, because everyone's situation is different. I could have one client with the exact same assets as another, exactly, but their wants and desires are different. Some may want to set up a Medicaid trust. Some may want to buy long-term care insurance. Some may not want to do anything, depending on their needs, their wants, the situation, where they're stationed in life, where they are. Everyone's situation is different. The family structure also dictates how we handle it.
And what's interesting, when we talk to family structure, now, Ron's been doing this in excess of 20, 30 years. We'll say 30.
In excess of 30 years.
Okay.
You don't have to peg me as being that old, but okay.
But let me say something also that's important about Ron for his background. He used to be a social worker, and I think that's important. And I think it's important on a lot of levels, because you understand a lot of things happen from a social worker standpoint that you have a natural inclination to check, to see. And what I mean by that, a lot of times when attorneys are with families, because they usually don't come in by themselves, they usually come in with their son, daughter, wife, trusted friend.
Typically, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
But sometimes there's that gut feeling you say,
Exactly.
you know what, there's something there that they want to tell me, but, or they evade your certain question that you ask certain questions that you want to say, you know what, people, can you excuse me, I just need to speak to Mrs. or Mr. So-and-so by themselves. And sometimes we need to do this.
Right.
Because there's something there that they're embarrassed to say in front of. Maybe they don't want to let family members know they're sick or they have an issue with a family member.
Right, absolutely.
And that's not unusual, am I correct?
Oh, it happens all the time. It's interesting that you picked up on that. I did go to social work school, never acted as a social worker.
But your instincts.
But my instincts are used all the time. And I can't tell you how many times I ask a simple question, do your children all get along? And they say, oh, sure. And I know by the way they say, oh, sure, that there's an issue.
Or you get this answer. They're like any other sibling.
Yeah, exactly.
And that is a...
You got it.
That's a scary thought because, you know what, Ron's, when he's asked that question, am I correct? Yeah. You're trying to see, what is it that I got to worry about down the road?
Right. Or sometimes you have one of the children in the room and the other one is not there.
A bully. Could be a bully.
Could be a bully. And often is. And you have to know about that. And sometimes that question, is answered. The family get along. Sometimes it's not black and white. Like you say, well, sometimes the answer is, for the most part. And then, you have the son step out of the room and you start to really dig in deep. And you see that the family could be very, very dysfunctional.
Most families are.
Most families are.
Mine included. I don't know about if you have any dysfunction.
Absolutely. A normal family is a dysfunctional family.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can't put us all in the room and we can't even agree on where to go to dinner.
Right. All the time.
So now let's go into, I think Medicare planning is important. But before we even go into that, a lot of people these days, you see a lot of newspaper articles talk about nursing homes.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And again, this is an area where, family members, it's emotional. All of a sudden they get a call, which typically happens. Mom, dad, they seem so forgetful. And dad didn't remember or mom didn't remember where they were or this and that. And there's denial sometimes on the parents' part.
Sure.
Or even some siblings. Oh, they're fine, they're just tired. But sometimes when they have to...
is rampant.
Exactly.
Rampant.
And now they say, you know what, we got to think about putting mom and dad in a nursing home. And it's an emotional decision. But now, we all read about the cost of nursing homes, which is, what's the average on a...
On a very cheap end?
Yep.
About $12,000.
A month.
A month.
Not a year.
No. In this area, Long Island is actually more expensive than New York City. Wow. But Long Island, New York City, about $12,000 a month, going up to close to $20,000 a month. So
I want you to listen to that. 12 to 20,000.
Yep.
That's no joke when you're dealing with nursing homes. And a lot of times you're forced, unfortunately, things could happen very quickly. Where you're forced, somebody's got to sign documents.
Right.
And now we go to the litigation.
Right.
Now, this is where, if you have the ability, and I think most people should, whatever it takes, should have an attorney review it, discuss what that means, signing that document, because what happens when you're signing that document, an administrator at some of these facilities are going to say, no, that's just sign here, just sign here. You don't want to read all this. It's just standard stuff.
Right.
And you're like, oh,
Yeah.
because here's how they press you. We only have a bed available, right? You get
Right,
that.
yeah.
You don't want to go back on the waiting list.
Right.
And you say, well, should I take it to my attorney? They said, I can't guarantee you the bed's available or the room's available.
Right.
And now let's go to son signs the document.
Right.
What are the issues? Because I know recent litigation.
There is
and-
recent litigation.
Right.
Boy, you're up on that. Yeah.
Why don't you tell us
Sure.
the danger?
Well, this is the point. Typically, when a son signs it, he's signing it on behalf, not that he's going to be personally liable.
Some
but
of them say
he's-
that.
But he's personally liable, typically, personally liable to use mom or dad's money. And so many times there are situations where that child is sued. And, there was a recent case. And so definitely want to look over that admissions agreement.
Well, what are the typical things that they tip? There's only a few things that they say to make you liable or who's going to be liable.
Right.
Let's go through that.
Right. Okay. Well, first we have to establish what documents the parent has. So let's say it's mom. Does mom have a power of attorney? And did mom name, let's say, the son, the agent on that power of attorney? If that's the case, the son can sign that document.
Now, what's typically in a power of attorney for people to understand why that's an important document?
Power of attorney is absolutely important. A power of attorney, let's say in the situation where mom gives the power to son, mom is giving the right to the son to act on her behalf financially. And if an elder law attorney...
As well as health, or that's another part of
That's
it?
another document.
Okay.
Financially. But if the elder law attorney drafts it right, and it's a complicated document if it's drafted right, that the son could actually do planning for mom, even if mom is incapacitated.
But mom could take back that power of attorney, am I correct?
Yes, anytime.
And that's
she
where...
could revoke that power anytime she wants to. But let's get that power. I happen to be on the board, not only on the board, I'm co-chairing the board of the Alzheimer's Association here on Long Island, and I chair the legal committee, and we see so many clients where there's Alzheimer's. And there's a window of opportunity, even with an initial diagnosis, for mom or dad to sign a power of attorney, sign the docs before the dementia sets in.
Because if dementia sets in and there is no docs, now what's the procedure?
Then we have to go in for a guardianship action. You have a court of law. It's not terrible, but it's a costly proceeding.
How much
Yeah.
is typical?
You could typically about $10,000.
And how long does that take?
That's not the end of it. Then you have to pay for a court-appointed attorney. There's a court
Now,
evaluator.
so people
Yeah.
understand what a court-appointed attorney is that attorney is there as a safeguard, almost acting like if it's your mother or whoever allegedly has the Alzheimer's or incapacity, is almost overseeing what you're doing, acting on their behalf.
Right.
So now you're not only paying
Right.
for your attorney to go forward and present the case, but now you also
Have
are
to pay
paying
for an
that,
attorney for mom or dad.
and you also may be fighting another sibling.
Right. Who
Which-
may want to be the guardian as well.
Or is saying, no, they don't need.
Exactly.
Let's say that child, that other sibling lives in the house.
Right. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
This is not uncommon.
Not uncommon at all.
So now you have
And
to pay.
It's a
so-
contested guardianship. It happens
and how
all
long
the
does
time.
that last?
It could last anywhere from a couple of months to years. 2 years.
And what's
And
happened?
there are cases, I actually brought a law to New York. I spent a lot of time on interstate guardianship issues, and we researched this issue. There are many cases where the legal fees alone in a contested guardianship were in the millions and millions of dollars. Legal fees.
And this is all because
Yeah.
how much would it have cost to prepare a power of attorney? Done
It's
right.
A good power of attorney, we try, it's under $1,000, well under $1,000.
Right. And what would that have prevented?
we-
This nonsense.
Yeah, exactly. But you
And-
want a power of attorney with special riders. You want it's called another is a statutory gifts rider, and they have to be modified for planning purposes. But when you get that down, that's the end of it for financial issues.
Because what happens is the elder person that really needs the help, it's not about them anymore. It becomes about the battle of fighting everybody, and we're not focusing. Allegedly, we're focusing and overseeing.
Absolutely.
And it should be, and there should be an attorney appointed. Let me be clear on this, because just because another spouse or a relative or a friend, whomever it may be, is fighting to get this, it may not be in the best interest. And we're saying, since they're incapacitated, we need someone to fight on their behalf in case it's not right.
Exactly.
Besides the judge, you need to have it, and then there's the evaluators,
The
and
court evaluator that charges
right.
as well.
This is no joke. And what's happening? All the assets are being depleted.
I was involved in a case where the court evaluator's fee and the court-appointed attorney's fees were both over $30,000 each. In a bad contested case. And that's not even the attorney's fees. That's just the court-appointed attorney and the court evaluator.
And they have to get paid through who?
Through mom's money.
What if there is no money?
Well, then, unfortunately, they would eat it. They would have to eat it.
Can they be forced to sell the house?
Oh, typically not, if it's not in the best interest. But, I mean, they could be, because it is a debt of the estate.
So it's either now or later. That debt's not forgotten.
Yeah. That's a song, either now or later. But in this case, it's not a good song.
Right.
And it's an issue.
And you know what I see? I see a lot of times people saying, well, I just went to my attorney that he does, this person does real estate, this person does personal injury, this person does some basic wills and trusts, this person sets up corporations. I got to be honest, maybe 30 years ago it was okay. Today, in the way litigation is, and you're dealing with money, you're dealing with emotions, you know what? You want the person that gets it and understands it.
Right. It's a huge issue, and it's a problem. To be honest, one of our biggest, I would say our biggest referral sources are attorneys that say they do elder law work, and they just refer cases to us because
it's got to get done right.
Has to get done right. They'll do a will, etc. But if it's going to be a complex issue, they're just not going to do it.
And as an attorney that doesn't do elder law or wills, trusts, and estates, you know what? You're doing your client a disservice because you don't even know the right questions to ask, whether that document's done, or how to, not only that, but you need to how to protect yourself and your client down the road.
Sure.
So, like any other business, it's about if you give your client good service, and that also means saying, you know what, this isn't an area that I do, but let me refer you to a couple of different people that they do, and this is why you need that. I think clients respect that.
Right. Absolutely. They do respect it. And we respect the attorney that refers to us.
They're smart enough to understand,
right.
he or she, that,
right.
you know what, I don't know this.
Exactly.
I recognize that there are issues here, because I think generally you can, but how to resolve those issues and what's in the client's best interest, maybe not.
Exactly. I speak for the Bar Association, lecture for the Bar Association quite a bit, and a lot of GPs, general practitioners, go to many of my lectures, and, after the last lecture, one of them came up to me and said, "This was great, but you taught me one big lesson. I should never handle this. I'll refer cases to you, but now at least I know how to spot the issues and what the issues are, so I know that this client needs to see you."
And I think if anything can be taken a lot from what Ron was talking about and what we were talking about is that an attorney, an experienced attorney, can always spot issues, but the experienced and smart attorney knows when something's above them that they need to go to the expert or the specialist. Let me rephrase that.
Right.
The specialist, because it's important. You know what? It's about doing your client the service, and that's what you're obligated and you should do.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've been practicing in this area over 30 years, and every Monday we have an attorney's meeting with all the attorneys in my firm for several hours going over little issues, little twists in each of our cases, and we come up with creative solutions.
And it's important when you hire a firm that there's a number of attorneys. A lot of them discuss what's happening, and they all come up with different ideas that may spark something.
Exactly. That's what we do. we have the best time because we're creative, you know. and we're-
You're not looking in the book. You're talking about reality now.
Right.
Well, thank you for coming today. It's been a quick 30 minutes.
Certainly has been.
We're going to have you back.
Sure, I'd love to.
And people, one thing I would say is don't put your head in the pillow when you hear elder law and say something, we'll get to it, we'll get to it, we'll get to it, right after I do my taxes, which is equally as painful. But you know what? You got to get to it. You owe yourself, your family, your loved ones. And I know it means sometimes paying an attorney, but maybe this may be the best money spent for the purposes of your family and your loved ones. You owe it. Thank you for tuning in to Legal Straight Talk. Thank you, Channel 20. And Ron, thanks again.
Thank you so much, Brett. Thank you.